master's program today in the US market are shams. They're paywalls. And I'm going to go into what I mean by that in the video. But if you really want to have a general basic of what I'm about to cover, in case you want to just skip around, totally fine. I'm not offended. It's basically going to be about fifth-year masters, people who are double counting courses, and the inflexibility of being able to count all of the classes you've taken and how much planning you'd have to do as a bachelor's to plan which electives you take as a bachelor's to not overcount or not waste a class that can be converted into your master's program. So let's start from the bachelor's degree. Let's say you're like me. I am a computer science bachelor's undergrad student at Stevens Institute of Technology. And so what that means is like, okay, very basic stuff. You take, your undergrad classes, basic general computer science classes that everyone has to take, and then math classes, whatever. And then you have a bunch of technical electives, which are classes that you want to specialize in. So for example, if you want to go into machine learning or web development or, security, you would choose these classes to be in that kind of area that you want to specialize in because, someone who wants to specialize in security, they don't need to care about, web development. Someone who wants to specialize in web development, they don't need to care about machine learning. So it's very much like you choose these classes because this is what you want to do. And so I want you to come and indulge me real quick. My classes at my school, every class that's 500 and up is a grad level class, which means grad students who are like literally in a master's program are allowed to take these like side by side with undergraduates who are just taking these for either elective or, I guess they are doing the master's accelerator program, which we're going to go into very soon. And so if you look at the AI's one, every single class is a grad class, every single one. If you want to be taking AI classes at my school, at least as an undergrad, you have to take grad. Like you don't even have a choice. Okay. And so application development, there are a couple. There's 2 undergrad level tech electives. Let me remind you when I come back here. There's 11 technical electives here. Okay, you need to take a lot of technical electives. And so AI, you have 0. You have to take grad classes. 11 of them if you want to take all of them. App development, there's 2. Security, there's also 0. Systems, there's 1. And theory, there's 1. And then these are other technical electives. But if you just take a quick glance, I guess a couple of these are undergrad levels. But generally speaking, you see my point. 500, even 600s, they're all grad classes. Like, you cannot escape having to take a majority of your classes being grad. And so out of the 11 technical electives that are here, you would have to take, I'd say at least, if you really wanted to max out your undergrad classes, you could take like maybe 5. And they would be spread out all over these disciplines that you wouldn't even be able to specialize in a category. So most people aren't even going to do that anyway. And so what that means is you're going to have probably up to 6 to 7, maybe even like up to 9 like classes that you take as an undergrad here that are grad classes. So why did I tell you all that? Well, if you check over here to our master's program, you come to this Master's of Science in Machine Learning page. Like, okay, let me check out how many classes I need and like what classes those are, right? You come down here, you see this program is a 30-degree credit program, which in this case is 10 classes because most of these classes are, 3 credits anyway. So you go, okay, there's 10 classes I need. But if you focus on this real quick, 3 of these courses are general electives. And so what that means is like these courses can be like anything under the sun that are just graduate level classes. And I don't want to speak for everyone, but I would be guessing that most people are going to see this and think, wow, this is a free piggy bank class. Like I don't need to take hard classes. Like they're going to go and find other people in this school and say, what is the easiest class? Who is the easiest professor? What is the class I can do the least amount of work in? Online classes, give me anything that makes me do the minimal amount of work. Not everyone is like that, I understand, but you're just going to have to be realistic, okay? Because these other 7 classes are going to be what your master's is all about, right? Because you have to take machine learning classes, and even the CS one, it's the same thing. There's going to be, 7 computer science classes and then 3 whatever classes. So indulge me for a second when I say most people, I believe, would make these, throwaway classes. It's not going to be, nobody in their right mind is going to make these 3 more machine learning classes or 3 more hard CS classes, right? So if you want to do more or less how much the count is, you're really only going to take like 7 classes that are related directly to what your master's is saying, right? So in this case, someone who'd be doing this is taking 7 classes that are specifically machine learning graduate classes, right? And that's what your master's title says. So you're just like, okay, these 7 classes are the classes that I'm going to be basically calling my master's knowledge. And so if you want to come back over here to the undergrad page, like I said before, you need 11 technical electives to graduate. Now, obviously, different schools, different amounts of whatever, but generally speaking, I feel like most CS schools will have a similar kind of structure where their upperclassmen years are just take what you want, like in terms of like path, not take what you want as in like easiness. If anything, you're forced to take the hard classes because all of these classes are literally grad classes. And I'm not even gonna get into the problem of how grad classes that are really hard or really easy or really inconsistent. We're not even gonna open that can of worms right now. We're just gonna live in a perfect world where even all of these classes are really good and they have good teachers and they have good curriculums. I know you about to go to the comments, but just indulge me for a second, because this is already a huge can of worms, even without talking about graduate teaching problems. So anyway, yeah, you have 7 classes in machine learning that you need to take your master's, to get your master's in machine learning. That's basically going to be your entire like knowledge base of why you even have a master's in the first place. And so you come down here, right, and you're like, okay, artificial intelligence, machine learning, stat machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, whatever. Here's some 3 classes. So now you're going to look at this and say, okay, well, what's the big issue? You're taking grad classes for a grad degree. It's very standard. Like, what's the big idea? And so the big idea is, especially if you're a bachelor student who's at the same college, is you've already taken these classes, right? You've already taken technical electives that were required for your bachelor's degree, right? And so I'll use mine as an example. So these are my classes. These are the standard classes, calculus, intro to computer science, undergrad. All of these below 500 classes are undergrad classes. Everyone has to take them. Everyone has to have that. My grad classes, though, because I knew I wanted to specialize in machine learning, so I'm using myself as an example here. So as soon as I was able to take technical electives that I got to choose, I chose, machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence, human-computer interaction, statistical machine learning, natural language processing. Like, these are all, like, specialized in machine learning because I knew I wanted to do that, so I just started doing them as soon as I can because of prerequisite levels, which means you can't just take them all late because, stacking levels, you get it. And so as a student who wants to specialize in machine learning, for example, you have to take these grad classes because as you saw before in that one page, they're literally all grad classes. Like, this is literally the undergraduate, this is the bachelor's. This is the bachelor's program requirements. And if you wanted to do machine learning classes, you have no choice. You literally have to take, look, the very basic course it recommends you is a grad level class, right? And so if you want to count how many I have right there, I just listed like 6 to you right there, right? And if you want to even stretch it, I have, introduction to cloud computing, database, I guess, undergrad, concurrent programming. So I have like 8 or 9 grad level technical electives, 6 of which are in machine learning discipline. So in any case, I could apply to either the Master's of Computer Science program or the Master's of Machine Learning program and already have 6 or 7 classes that are like related exactly to what the Master's says. And so why that's a big issue is because, as most of you have already guessed, many schools will only let you transfer so many double counted credits. In my case, at Stevens, if I were to stay here for a master's, it would only be 3 courses, 9 credits. This whole master's program is 10 classes, 30 credits, and they're only going to let you transfer 9 credits, 3 classes, which means you still have to take 7. And for most people, again, this is a generalization, but I'm just going to follow the pattern of what a typical student would see. Most people are going to be saying, okay, well, these computer science classes I took as a bachelor's were definitely the hardest. I could transfer the general electives. For example, if I took a math class. Oh, there it is. Okay, my bad. So anyway, yeah, classes like this would be a general elective, right? And this class wasn't even easy. But even, let's say if it was, right? You're not going to transfer the class that was the easiest, right? Because then you would have to retake the hard classes, So obviously, everyone's going to transfer the hard classes. If you took, stat machine learning, natural language processing, machine learning, you're going to transfer those classes because those were the hardest ones. It means that if you've already taken, for example, in my case, actually, all 5 of these classes, I can only transfer 3. I lose 2 of these classes, right? And that's just to say, I forget, the topics, obviously. But it means I basically just have to retake, in this case, only 1 of these classes. But in a case where it was 5 out of 6, I'm pretty sure this is a typo. I'd have to retake 2 of these classes I've already taken. It's not even like there's an undergrad and a grad level. It's literally the grad level class that I already took the exact same class, the exact same professor, the same homeworks. Everything is the same. But I have to retake it because I can only double count 9 credits. And so what's even worse about this is if you really want to dive into the details here is since you have to complete 4 of the 5 and I can only transfer 3, I'm actually incentivized to not even take some of these classes, right? Like if this 4 of the 5 is true, 2 of these classes I don't need to take. And so if you look at the topics though, these topics I feel like are exactly what I would expect someone who owns a master's in machine learning to know about. If I'm an employer and you tell me you have a master's in machine learning, I want you to know how to do all this stuff. I don't want you to say, okay, well, I only have these topics, and since I have to take electives, I just took some random crap like time series and dynamic. And that's not to say that these, classes are useless, but you get what I'm saying, where it's like, okay, like you have a master's in machine learning, I want you to know how to do all of these topics because this is exactly what I think of this is exactly the kind of knowledge and classes I think of when I hear you say you have a master's in machine learning. But as we just went over, you actually are incentivized to not take all of these classes because you only need 4 of these 5. And so if you take this class or this class, if you notice they're not even cross-referenced over here. So it's not even like you could take all 6 of these classes and say, okay, let's put 4 here and 2 here. You can't even do that. You can't even do that because these classes aren't listed here. These are just completely other classes. And so if you have, in my case, 5 of these classes, you can only double count 3. I lose 2 of these, so I only have these 3, for example. And even if I didn't take these classes, I have no reason to. Well, I guess I have to take one of them, but I have no reason to take the rest of these core classes because I only need 4. I'm going to take 3 classes from here, which they're not useless classes, but they're not as core, I would say, as to a master's in machine learning, Like I would rather, as a employer who is told that you have a master's in machine learning, I would rather you have knowledge of all 6 of these topics, right? Maybe like computer vision, like applied machine learning. We already have a machine learning, so I don't even know. Like you get what I'm saying. Like it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense why first of all, these aren't even double counted in the electives. Like why would you stop someone from taking all 6 of these classes and just using 4 of them as, the core and 2 of them for machine learning core? Because, these are all basically machine learning anyway. Maybe except for this one, I guess. But if it's not machine learning, then why is it a core class? Like it's like a paradox, right? Like if you want to say that this is a core class, it should be machine learning related if it's part of the core of Masters of Science in Machine Learning. And if it's not, you should put it down here. And if it's down here, it should also be like supplementary with these classes. Like these classes, why aren't they just counted down here as well? Why would you want to, for example, imagine you have no classes, right? You coming in as a master's from a bachelor's degree you took at a completely different college. You have none of these classes. Or even you were a bachelor's here and you didn't take machine learning classes. You took web dev classes. You still won't want to take all of these classes. You're still going to see, okay, complete 4 of these 5 courses. I need 4 core electives, 3 machine learning electives, and then 3 generals, whatever. You're going to say, okay, well, 4 machine learnings, 4 of these. Oh, but none of these are cross-referenced down here for the electives. You're not going to take all of these classes. Nobody is going to end up taking more than 4 of these classes as a coming up grad student. The only person who would be taking more than 4 of these classes is people like me, people who took these classes as a bachelor's just for the sake of wanting to learn what the class was about, not even realizing or not even wanting to intend on maximizing my abilities to not retake classes. And the flip side of it is even worse because you could say, okay, well, as a bachelor student who knows that you may want to do a master's soon, you should have looked into this. You should have seen this course requirements, before you signed up to take all these classes, right? Like as a sophomore, as a junior, you should have seen this page and been like, okay, if I can only take 4 of these classes and only double count 3 of them, you should only take 3 of these in your bachelor's as the technical electives we talked about earlier, and use your other tech electives to take classes that are not in this discipline, like web development or cybersecurity. And my counter argument to that is, what's the point of that? Like, why would you put it on a student to 2 or 3 years in advance of their graduation of a bachelor's to plan for a master's, which they might not even know if they want to do yet, or may even go to a different school. Like, what if they go to Carnegie Mellon? Now they have to look at that program requirement, right? And it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you put that on a student who might just want to take these classes and just to see what they're about? Because what if they take artificial intelligence and they realize they hate it? They're like, oh, actually, AI is not for me. Let me do something else. Let me do web dev. And they just start doing web dev. You know, like, what if anything happens where the plan changes in those 2 to 3 years you would have to take to maximize your efficiency of not overcounting credits that you can't double count, right? Now let's say they do care about AI, and now they're going to take the web dev classes because they know if they take deep learning and natural language processing after these classes, it will be futile. They're going to have to take it again because of the way this master's is set up, because you need to complete 4 of these 5, but you can only transfer 3. And so a student who is planned ahead, who does know that they want to specialize in this, will still be incentivized to not take these classes, at least some of these classes, because it's going to be wasted, right? It's going to be wasted because they can only take double count 3 of these classes. So even if they took all 5, like me, sucks to be you because you can only count 3 of them. So these 2 classes that I've taken, gone, thrown in the void. Even though these classes, I would argue, once again, I would argue are pretty pivotal to a master's of science in machine learning. It's exactly what you would expect someone who has this master's to know about. You're incentivized to not take these classes. You're incentivized instead to do 3 of these. You know, I've been using these as the basic 3, for example, but it could be any combination of 3. But either way, you're going to be missing, you know, if you can only take double count 3 of these, you're going to be missing 2 of these, which I feel like missing any 2 of these, I feel like is really, really detrimental to your foundation for a master's degree, where specialized in a topic where all of these classes are, you know, related to what that topic is. And so instead, you're going to be taking all of these crap, which is like, they're not useless classes again, like, but 5 classes is kind of normal for a bachelor's student. I didn't even mean to talk about this, but let's talk about this actually, because a bachelor's student will be taking around 5 to 6 classes, right? 15 to 18 credits if you want to do it by 3 credit classes. Like, that's very standard in a bachelor's semester plan. Now, if you remember what we talked about earlier, I didn't even realize this, but like, yeah, like a bachelor's student could very easily in their, their 6th semester. So let's go back to the bachelor's page, which I wasn't even planning to talk about this, because master's programs generally will only allow you to take up to 4 classes, maybe even 3 for some schools, where you only have to take 9 or 12 credits if it's, 3 credit per class. And so if you think about it though, as a bachelor's student, it's very common, if you want to even count here, this is literally the sample study plan for my school's official bachelor's plan. This is literally what they recommend you. These credit counts per semester, this is like 18, 19, 18 credit, like it's very standard for these semesters to have 18, 19 credits, like 5 or 6 classes going on. But as we just discovered, for example, for these semesters, these are basically all tech electives. And as we've already looked at before, all these tech electives are grad classes. Like, if you want to go by the study plan exactly, this semester, actually all of these semesters, all of your last 3 semesters are basically master's level plans, because look, there's 4 classes, actually there's 5, but whatever. There's 4 tech elective classes, which are, as we've discovered, if you want to do something like this, they're all master's classes anyway, so this student who's actually only a junior is basically taking the exact same schedule as a graduate would be taking, like verbatim, because they're taking 4 classes that are all grad classes plus something else. So they actually have more. They actually have more things to do than this grad student, right? And it's the same thing here. 3 classes, which are literally grad level tech electives, plus even more classes. So you're actually doing literally twice the amount of classes than a grad student. Like a junior and like seniors and bachelors are literally doing the same, if not more classes and work than grad students, And don't even talk to me about masters of a thesis, because in most of these master's programs, a thesis counts as one of your classes anyway. So if you want to go that route, this class would be a thesis. And they would still have, only 3 classes then. Versus this bachelor's junior is literally taking more shit than you. And so it doesn't make any sense why like master's programs even limit you to 12 credits if they're expecting their bachelor students to do more. Right? Like if you just look at these 2 semesters, 3 semesters even, and you look at the tech electives where they're all grad, like what do you think is going to happen? What do you expect a student is going to do when all of their tech electives, pretty much all of their tech electives are grad level classes, and you're suggesting that they take 3 semesters of 3 to 4 plus other classes like the science, math, the senior design, capstone class, by the way. Like, what do you expect is going to happen? These are literally basically going to be master's semesters. Like, I have no doubt that many students who are here are literally going through master's semesters where they're taking 3 or 4 master's level classes, but then also just doing another class on top of that. And so, if you want to come back to, we got a little off topic there, but if you want to come back to, if you had the opportunity to double count all of these, if we even had that, you're only allowed to take 12 credits maximum for a master's semester. And most people will actually only need to take 9 because that's what the study plan says. And so you wouldn't even be able to do this in one semester anyway because you would have to take 5 classes and you're only allowed to take 4. And again, if you think about it for like 2 seconds, you're like, wait a minute, what about this bachelor student who is literally taking those 4 tech electives but also another class? Or same here, they're taking 3 tech electives and 2 more classes. Is it really reasonable for you to expect that bachelor students are doing more crap than their grad counterparts when their classes are literally the same? Right? Like, they're the exact same classes. And so the only reason why, again, it seems like that these restrictions are in place is because they just want you to pay the bottom line. They don't want you to stay for only a semester where you'd pay half of this tuition, half of this loans, half of this housing, half of the supplies. You literally halve the tuition by being able to just take all the classes, which a bachelor student could be doing anyway, right under their noses, because they want the grad students who can afford it to just pay them more money. They just want more money. That's it. That's literally the only reason I can think about, right? And it gets even worse if you want to transfer to another school, right? Like this is Carnegie Mellon's page. The 5th years of them, this is if you're a bachelor there, it's the same idea, you can transfer like 3 classes or whatever. But if you're a master's, from somewhere else, you can't transfer anything, right? Like, you just take all the classes that's on their list, right? In that case, it's even worse because now you're really, doing all these classes all over again, barring, better resources, better labs, better professors, whatever. Assuming all of that is generally equal, like you're not going from, Mr. Krabs' community college to Harvard. Like you're going from a respectable university to another respectable university. Like these classes will probably be the same in terms of the content that you do and then what you learn. That's the key concepts, right? If we introduce, better courses, better professors, this whole point of going to different schools, sure. But like, just not even like giving the students a chance to like say like, yeah, I've already done these classes. I want to take the higher level classes. Like for example, let's say a better school than Stevens has Deep Learning 2, Deep Learning 3, Natural Language Processing 2, something like that. You would want to skip the first one and go to the second one. Because the whole reason why I would even imagine people would change master's schools from their bachelor's is because the school that they're going to is better. Because it has more resources, because it has better labs. Now we're factoring in, different universities having different levels of quality. I would imagine you go there because, for example, like my school, they don't have there's no natural language processing 2, there's no deep learning 2, there's no artificial, there's no second level. This is literally all there is if you want to do machine learning. There's nothing else. But what if I want to do NLP at a higher level? What if I want to do, generative AI? What if I want to do physical AI? What if I want to do GPU core processing? Anything that's above this. It doesn't happen at Stevens. It doesn't happen at my bachelor's. And so I have to go to a different school for that. But at this different school, if they don't take these classes, at least even some of them, then I still have to retake these intro classes. I might not have time or space to take those higher level classes. I would be wasting my time in the same level classes and not be able to maximize, taking other classes at this new school that I'm going to that might not even be offered here. For example, I don't know, ChatGPT for beginners prompt engineering class, right? Just an example. It's not offered at this school. I don't have that. But what if other school does? And I want to take that class. Oops, you can't. Or if you do, you're going to have to wait a while because you're going to retake all of these classes all over again. I don't say this as to hate to my school or Carnegie Mellon or like any school. Everything I use as an example, framework. But it just goes to show you like what I think is kind of like a sham industry. Kind of like, oh, like everyone's has kind of got caught up in the idea of having a master's is so like intellectual. Having a master's is so like next level. But like if you really dig into the details here, like it's kind of I would rather say like inflated. I wouldn't say it's meaningless, but it's very inflated in how like people who have a master's in science and machine learning might not even know how to deep learn, might not even know how to natural language process because this curriculum just doesn't incentivize them to do all that, Anyways, I just wanted to share my thoughts about this topic in case any other upcoming grad students are having the same feelings, or if I'm just, in an unlucky situation where this is exactly just how my school is and no other school is like this. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.